little while ago, I told viewers that we would have some groundbreaking news that was related to the UN for them soon. We have that for you today. As regular viewers of ours would know, Zee Media has been exposing this wretched organisation known as the United Nations for years now. So much so that a spokesperson for Antonio Guterres himself responded to a hit piece about me in response to our expose on the 8 March Principles, a UN-backed document which calls for the legalisation of sex with minors. Many depraved, dangerous agendas come out of the UN, with the most convoluted of them all being Agenda 2030, once known as Agenda 21. Today, we have for you former UN Special Rapporteur and whistleblower Calin Georgescu, who was initially involved in Agenda 21 and is now running for president of Romania. He promises, albeit carefully, that he will free his country from the clutches of the globalist oligarchs who ultimately run the world. We hope that people take some of his warnings about the United Nations, World Economic Forum, WHO, and the oligarch system seriously. His message is that every country needs to remain sovereign, in charge of its wealth, natural resources, and health, and that humanity needs to be prepared for a movement of freedom like we've never seen. We'll be joined by Calin Georgescu, 2024 presidential candidate for Romania, right after a quick word about one of our sponsors who make it possible for us to remain independent and free to view. Calin Georgescu, it is wonderful to have you on with us today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you for having me.
It is wonderful to see you. Well, we have a lot to discuss today. I told people a little while ago that I had a bombshell coming for them, and that is certainly what this conversation is going to be. I learned about you a little while ago when my good friend Rainer Fulmich, who is suffering immensely right now for telling the truth, interviewed you.
Indeed.
And I encourage people to go back and watch that interview. But for anyone who isn't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So first of all, I'm a free man, which is very important, particularly today. It's not very easy. And even for me, I want to mention, so I'm free man. This is full stop. This is, I'm Romanian, I'm a free man. And I'm working hard for the freedom in general in the global scale. And of course, I'm working very hard for the freedom for my people. I'm running for president in my country, for president of the republic. The election are in November 25th. So after the election in the United States on the 5th of November. And of course, even for me, the history was not, let's say, very simple in a sense that I was in matrix as well. Particularly in my working for United Nations, and I had in one moment, a breakthrough, and I find that UN is not as I strongly believe in early beginning, and is something is different, and of course, I started to be more consciousness, and the consciousness, in fact, give to us the freedom. So bottom line, based on your question, is I encourage everybody fight all the time, fight to be consciousness. The consciousness gives to us the freedom, the consciousness gives to us the love, and the consciousness gives to us the power of the people to understand that we are the son of God. Thank you, Maria.
Well, I really appreciate that, Calin, and I do want to talk to you a little bit about your Christian stance and how that relates to your presidential race. But before we get into your race and what's made you decide to do all of this, talk to us about your work with the United Nations and what made you actually realize just how much this organization was actually responsible for the destruction of the world.
So thank you. First of all, we have to know, all of us, that starting 1945, UN was born, and was born with just one main purpose, just one, no two, no three, just one main purpose: to build and to keep the peace after the Second War. So this was the main purpose, and based on that, we start United Nations organization. United Nations does mean nations, does mean exactly national states. It's exactly the target which they against today, because all the oligarch system against the nation states and against the Christianity. So both things was the pillar of the UN in 1945, but during the time was there were different influences surround, and of course all these things, they remain just propaganda. And finally UN is fighting exactly to national states, to national sovereignty, and of course against the Christianity. So in any case, I start to work for UNDP, United Nations Development Program, I guess, if I remember well, 1995. And I was strongly believe that I'm in the perfect place, the perfect institution. And I was totally dedicated to everything which I receive from UN. I coordinate in Romania first the program Local Agenda 21, and I was the coordinator of the National Sustained Development Strategy, which definitely there were very important points, very important topics. The work was made very well. Even the country was developed very well. But during that time, and particularly in the moment when I arrived in New York, based on my job, and after that in Geneva, where I worked a lot of time, I started also to be member of the board in United Nations Volunteer Program for Central and Eastern Europe. I started after that to be special rapporteur for the waste and dangerous products surround the planet, for the entire planet. And after that, I was director for the Index of Sustained Development Institute of United Nations. I find that the words are nice, very good, perfect, done. But in fact, behind, they are doing the contrary, which exactly first God doesn't like, and the let's say the Mephisto try to make vice versa, to make inverse the situation. For example, the code of Agenda 2030, Maria, on there are 17 objectives, and number one is zero poverty, no poverty. Yeah, this is number one.
Yes.
The objective number one is exactly that we have high poverty today. All right. So number two is no how I can say, the people, they have to have food. Okay. So and it's exactly contrary, that the people, they don't have food. The number three is about health and welfare, and the people, they don't have health and they don't have welfare, and so on until the end, the number 17. So bottom line, the situation is exactly contrary, exactly 180 degrees in another pole, and it's not like we have in the on the paper. So these are the 17 objectives of United Nations, the Agenda 2030, which in fact everything is fine and is correct, but in reality, in the ground level, doesn't exist anymore.
Right. So I want
Moreover
to
than
ask you,
that,
you mentioned that that you did some work with Agenda 21 initially.
yeah,
What was that presented as
this
initially, and
was,
how did it
yeah.
become so perverted?
Well, ultimately, in the moment when we are doing locally, as I did in Romania, we had not too much influence here. So actually, I did a good job and a good standard, and the people, they understand very well how they can organize their work. I was the person who I insist a lot for the private property, for the private sector, for the local entrepreneurs, for more small and medium enterprises, which in fact was inside the program of Local Agenda 21. But finally, you know, this plan in the ground have to be related with the state. But the state was related with the oligarch system, and the oligarch system decide exactly contrary to what I did in the plan, and in fact, what I did from UN. So in other words, they leave you, let's say, almost free to manage this plan in the ground, but after that, the state doesn't exist, or in fact, the state is a slave of the oligarch system. This have to understand the people. And more than that, for this interview, I can tell you that I am the person who all the time I support totally the true of free market, the real free market, you know. And the free market, Maria, in fact, doesn't exist. So it's a very, very, how I can say, high manipulation. In a sense, they leave you to believe that you are free, but in fact, you are not free. With other words, you are in a matrix. And if you don't understand that you are in a matrix, you cannot go like out from matrix. This is a problem. So free market doesn't exist. And the
Are you
free
saying
and the
that because
market,
of the fact that there are major corporations that essentially control the free market?
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. The oligarch system, in fact, designed exactly via or through the big corporations, they decide the price, they decide the market. So not only Romania, everywhere, the small, the entrepreneurs, the local, the private sector, which is the pillar of any society, they cannot develop themselves for the simple reason because the price is definitely dictated by it's a monopoly of the corporations, of the capitalist system, all right, exactly as was in the communist system. It's the same because communism and capitalism is equal. It's not any difference. Any difference is the same. Just the owner is different, but they are absolutely the same. So the price is dictated by the oligarch system, and because it's dictated, the private sector is reduced until to be finished, to be die, you know,
Well, I
to
think
die.
COVID
And
played a very huge part in this, where they actually systematically got rid of, organic mum and pop businesses, redirected all of the consumers to
yeah,
the essential businesses. So what I'm interested in is how do these oligarch systems relate to what the UN is trying to do? You're talking about destroying national sovereignty. I agree with you completely there. How does this all relate?
they have one simple plan. They have to change the human being in robots, and they to serve them, and the population to be reduced until 500 million. In fact, this is the objective, which ultimately I find also myself, and in fact, everybody knows today. I mean, it's not any, how I can say, any secret what they want to reduce the population from the planet. And they can reduce this, first of all, to eliminate the free people, which are the local entrepreneurs, which they produce with their hands, correct? The second is they produce good food, particularly, and good things, and they don't need good food. They need just alimentation based on plastic, based on nanogenetic technology, based on different chemicals, you know. And they, in the moment when they control the food, for example, Romania import 90%, all the food is imported by Romania, which is absolutely a criminal act, because Romania can export for the entire Europe all the food which is necessary. And we, as country, we import 90% um, food from outside, which in fact is not food. They are just sort of, let's say, elements, which they are totally located in chemicals, plastic, and other things, exactly as I told you, from supermarket. Second point, after the food, is the big pharma. So the big pharma control immediately the person who has different health problem after this alimentation, which is totally contrary their health. And third is the medical system, which it's ultimately, which control, in fact, your last days before to die. So again, first of all, they control the private sector. Second, control the big pharma. Third, control the big, the medical system. And third, you are in the end. So everything is just a manipulation, which was very, very well controlled by UN. And in fact, UN, control all the states with a lot of propaganda. In fact, metrics, in my opinion, Maria, is the propaganda. So if you want to go out to plug off from metrics, you have to plug off from propaganda. This is the most important point.
Absolutely.
Which does mean media particularly, but in general speaking, propaganda.
Well, what a lot of people don't necessarily, and sorry to interrupt you, but what a lot of people don't necessarily understand is that the way that the UN is structured, they think that it doesn't have influence over countries. But according to my research, Calin, I see all these NGOs that are linked to the UN. Then we have state actors who are ultimately sold out to this organization that are actively pushing for this one world governance. And so even if people think that the UN is insignificant, they will publish policies, and I've seen it time and time again, buried within their meeting notes and their agendas is what they're actually trying to achieve. And one example I can give people is when they published that churches must start elevating LGBT rights above Christian rights. And then as soon as the UN published that, churches started to do it. So there is a flow-on effect from the UN through the NGOs through the state.
Yeah, exactly.
It comes down like a cancer.
Exactly. It's just one rule, Maria and UN, just one rule, to be politically correct. If you're out from that point, you don't exist. So for this reason, how is the mechanism in order to keep the people close to you? NGOs, let's say your employees from UN, and others, by money. They are paying fantastic salaries. They are paying in general cash, which is quite amazing, honestly speaking, all right? And ultimately, for example, when I was myself in different missions in Europe or abroad or in Pacific area or in doesn't matter, in Asia, you are absolutely fantastic pay. So with other words, in the end of the day, when you are alone, you have two solutions. One, to think, hey, I am totally comfortable here. I'm flying in the business class. In fact, all the time we are flying in business class, all the time. It's not important if you have a flight, for example, Vienna, Budapest, which is just 45 minutes, you are in the business class, or if you fly Vienna to Los Angeles, also in the business class, all right? So you are flying permanently top level, you have top restaurants, you are totally top pay. So normally you think this is a mentality which they want to push, that your mentality to say, hey, it's good like this. I don't want to be any more rebel. It's good to be politically correct. And I have a good salary. I can go to be retired from that. So what is the problem, Right. But of course, sometime in the life is coming the breakthrough, is coming the consciousness, not for all, absolutely. But I'm telling you frankly that there are people, not only me, which they leave UN for the simple reason that they have consciousness. So the consciousness, the power of the consciousness is the most important thing. And exactly this, on this side, they try to make the attack, aggressive attack, in the moment when they start COVID. Right. Because COVID, don't forget, first of all, was started by, let's say, by propaganda. And after that, who was made the control? UN. Through the World Health Organization, correct?
Correct.
Which made the entire system in order to push the people to be vaccinated and to push the people to do all these things. And exactly in that moment arrived my friend Rainer Filmisch, who is absolutely a hero, who made open all this crime against humanity, which was made so far, and today, unfortunately, is in a prison. But nevertheless, that the morality system um, born fantastic soul and spirit, and I'm sure that very soon Rainer will be free.
I'm
But in
sure as
any
well. And
case,
I just want to tell people he's in good spirits. I've posted a recent update from him. It was an audio update. He is being subjected to humiliation. They
yeah,
are
it's true.
physically torturing him, and he is still in good spirits. And we're very, very certain that very soon this case will be exposed for what it is. But it
It's
is an
true.
egregious example of
It's
following
fantastic.
Julian
Yeah,
Assange. You see this extradition to other countries, to prosecute in other countries, to make people suffer in other countries. Reiner was essentially kidnapped from Mexico. There's no extradition treaty between Germany and Mexico at the time, and he's essentially kidnapped from another country. This is something that I see is the UN goal. Erode sovereignty, erode nations, create a one world. Really, that is the goal. But Calin, I want to ask you, because you mentioned that that the goal is to reduce the population to 500 million, and they're working actively at that goal. Did you notice that because of some of the things that the United Nations or people within it were discussing, or was that your independent research that led you to that conclusion?
no, of course, was my independent research and based on different meetings and official or non-official, which we find that, how I can say, in principle, to be very clear, all the meetings, they are for peace, all of them, but the peace was just in the corner, and she has not the right to speak. You got my point. So peace was like Cinderella, a beautiful girl who is waiting to have time to speak. And she didn't receive the floor, never, just was in the corner. And the people, they are speaking about her, but she has not right to take the floor. You got my point. So
Yes.
this is the bottom line of the situation. And beside that, of course, is the system who try to manipulate you, particularly you like employee, or you are like partner, or or an NGO, exactly as you said, is working with the UN, in order to make influence that you promote the same ideas, the same propaganda. So actually, it's enormous propaganda who is
Yes.
going on. For example, with Africans, all the time, even me and you, Maria, when we were smaller, we received the information, please help the children from Africa, correct?
Yes.
With different things, you know, with shoes, with food, with whatever. But we don't know the reality, because Africa, the continent of Africa, and all the countries from them, it's a fantastic continent. It's probably the highest in spirituality. In spirituality, is the highest in richness, and with fantastic people, with fantastic countries. But all of them are manipulated by the biggest corporations, and in fact by the colonialism system, which plunder their natural resources.
Yes.
For example, water. Water is totally manipulated, for example, by Nestle, who pick up all the water from one country, from Africa, or from others anyway, 3 countries, and they pay $1 for 1 ton, and they sell the Evian or the Nestle bottle of 300 milliliters with €5.
I wasn't aware of that.
So
I have to look into that more, certainly.
yeah, this is a
How
point.
I'm absolutely aware as well, Kalin, that You have people like Bill Gates and the World Health Organization who've gone into so many places in Africa. They actually tested infertility vaccines in Africa before they deployed them on the rest of the world. This is gross experimentation that's happened to the African
It
people.
is. Exactly this I want to tell you now, that UN, I find also myself during the time, and I was twice during this meeting, which is called it World Economic Forum. UN, in fact, is a franchise of World Economic Forum. With in other words, what World Economic Forum decide, UN follow. This is the point. And in general, don't forget that both of them are located in the same country, in Switzerland, very close, in fact, even as geographical position. And I find during different meetings, and particularly in World Economic Forum, where in fact what they are doing, what they promote, UN just follow. It's just like a cat or like a dog who is follow his owner, no more than that. Ultimately, in fact, exactly as I said in the interview with Rainer, it's, let's say, a process of not only propaganda, but to take care about, let's say, sensitive subjects.
Such
Even
as?
that we discuss about sensitive subjects does mean vaccination, exactly as you said, or pedophilia, which is also another subject, where the children disappear totally from their family, from their country, and it's a huge system
Are you saying
which
that the
promote.
UN, the WEF are facilitating child trafficking?
I can say that their role is to keep, Maria, I can say that UN has a role to keep the peace. Bottom line. Peace does mean peace. Peace does not mean war. And starting from 1945 until now, even today, there are a lot of conflicts. It's a lot of war. And why I want to say is doesn't exist dialogue, doesn't exist diplomacy, which is a main important pillar. So in order to be very clear, we need trade between countries, we need free trade, we need free market, we need cooperation between countries, and we need diplomacy.
Without the involvement of the UN.
Yeah, but the role of UN was exactly this, in order to keep and to build the peace, not only to keep the peace, to build the
Yes.
peace. And for this reason, in all the missions, this is the role of UN. The UN is not in the position to keep one side together for his interest. No, it's just to take care about the sovereignty of the country. Even the country is Cambodia, or is Burkina Faso, or is Albania or Romania. They have to do the same job. You understand my point? But it's depends about the system, the oligarch system, who dictate, and the World Economic Forum who dictate where I have my interest, economic interest, of course.
Yes.
And now the most important piece from our interview is that ultimately the main goal of this oligarch system are the natural resources. So the natural resources is exactly the target which they're looking for.
Well, we have an
There are the
example
natural,
just recently out of North Carolina where you had a huge deal, $90 billion, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken, for the lithium mines in this area. And a week later, they're hit by a hurricane that just should not have gone in that direction. And we learnt afterwards that residents were quietly protesting these lithium mines for 3 years prior to this deal being signed. So I'm looking at the destruction that the lengths of the destruction that they will go to, Calin, for these natural resources. And of course, smart cities play into that whole agenda, right?
exactly. This was happened in all the countries, even United States, not only in Africa, but everywhere. in Romania, everywhere in Ukraine, which is today, in Russia, everywhere they try to plunder the natural resources. Because who has the natural resources has a power. This is very simple. And in general, the natural resources, the most important one is the oil. Oil and the most important metals from Mendeleev system, with who you can empower your technology, international technology system. This is the point. And who has this capacity, it's immediately in the target. Just to give an example, the most important countries which they have beside Russia, who is the richest one, which are the most important metals, elements from Mendeleev system, are Afghanistan, and we know what's happening in Afghanistan, and Romania. The most important soil, the ground soil, the richest soil of the planet, has Argentina and Romania. And when I said Romania, I can say also Moldova Republic and part of Ukraine, which is part of Romanian territory. And here we discuss about the soil, not about the land. Soil does mean chernosium. Chernosium is the quality of soil who produce food, and the plants are so strong and powerful. And of course, they change this natural, let's say, system of the plants in GMO, yeah.
Yes.
Which there are genetic modified organisms. And they, of course, they empower, let's say, soya or maize or others. But in fact, the, how I can say, the power, the healthy power of the food doesn't exist anymore because it's totally chemical inside. And with this system, of course, the people become sick. In the moment when they become sick, exactly as I told you, they go to big pharma, and big pharma give more sickness to the people.
Lifetime
and for more
customers.
sickness, does mean exactly one to one is the medical system. After that is finished. And they said, in principle, for example, well, the average of the life, for example, in Europe is increased to the men from 67 years old to 68 years old or 69. Come on, it's a bullshit, because I have seen also in Pacific Ocean and in other, let's say, different part of the world. I have seen people 150 years old, 180 years old in Marshall Islands, where I have been myself for a UN mission. So it's not like this. And we have to understand as people that beside any other things which we want to protect today, the most important thing which we have to protect is the humanity from us. The
Absolutely agree with
humanity
you. I
is the
want to
most important pillar of what we have to do today, full stop.
I absolutely agree with you, and I want to talk to you about that. I'm aware that we have limited time today, but there's two key things that you mentioned that I really want to get a better understanding from you about, which is the pedophilia agenda coming down the line, and also transhumanism. Talk to us about these two things that that the UN is involved in.
The point is, that the transhumanism is the most dangerous one. Exactly for this reason, I said we have to protect our humanity. The problem is that the UN system, they have to protect the humanity. And exactly this they did not. So this is the problem. This is a huge problem, in fact, because UN is running based on the financial contribution from all the member countries. And we are 193 countries today. So I wonder what they are doing, all of them, what they ask for, because ultimately we have to have a correct decision for the truth. And politically correct is political to be politically correct is the most danger factor today, which is promoted by everybody in sense of media and by the huge propaganda. And I encourage the people to be non-politically correct. Because if you are non-politically correct, you can be rebel, you can be free, and only the freedom can give to you the symphony of God, because we are the son of God. It's not vice versa. We are not the son from the oligarch system, I'm sorry, or from the World Economic Forum.
Absolutely.
So we have to be prudent enough that all these things is coming from our consciousness. If we are not conscious enough, of course, we remain to be the slave of them. And the slavery, Maria, if you allow me, is not reduced or is not disappear anymore. The slavery is probably in the highest power today, in the highest level. It's absolutely huge everywhere. Look at United States. United States is not like in TV today. United States is a lot of poverty on the street,
Yes.
with a lot of problems of criminality. You know? So with a debt of $35 trillion, which I don't know what he will do, the future president of the United States, even that will be Trump, how we can solve this problem. $35 trillion debt. It's absolutely a huge mess of debt. So how you can do that in the moment when you will be president for your country, and particularly to know about the huge system of immigration, the disaster of the culture, and in principle, disaster of humanity. We have not any relationship. In order to be correct with our people today, Maria, I want to say that the future belongs to the human relationship. Only that. This is my sentence for the future. The future belongs to human relationship.
I agree with you. And it's really interesting because a UN lawyer, Paolo Gauletti, was recently caught on camera talking about how the UN is terrified of another Trump presidency. So I found that to be fascinating. And of course, there are many statements that Donald Trump has made that are completely opposed to Agenda 30. For example, he's going to get rid of electric vehicle mandates, no CBDCs. These things are opposed to Agenda 2030, which is their ultimate goal. So now pivoting to your presidency, Calin, because I'm absolutely so encouraged to see someone like you running in the country of Romania. This is a fantastic thing. We need more people like you running. So talk to us about what your presidency would look like in terms of getting Romania's sovereignty back, focusing on humanity, ending this transhumanism, child mutilation cult that seeks to destroy everything about what it is to be human. Let's start there.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to mention to everybody at the time running to be president as independent. So I have not any political party. My only political party, my only party, in fact, not political, my only party are the Romanian people. This is number one. Number two, I have just volunteers basis. So just people from the ground, the grassroots, which they help me and help this idea. We have not budget. We have not, let's say, campaign center or different other things like that. Just we are running ourselves. We promote two things. One, to change the economical systems through the system of sovereignty and distributism, which does mean to have each citizen to have power enough economically in order to be independent. And second, I promote the love. The love is not a relationship. The love is a state of spirit. And here we have to arrive, all of us. Otherwise, we cannot understand the main important sentence, the highest important sentence, which we have from almost 2,000 years, more than that. that love is God. And if we don't understand this, we don't understand anything. So we promote only that. I don't fight with nobody as a candidates, which there are. I said very clear that I am not in the political campaign. I'm just to empower the capacity of the people to be free. And I promote permanently the small and medium enterprise, the small productive system. I promote permanently the local entrepreneurs. I promote the lesson of economy, which does mean try to exploit yourself, your natural resources, just yourself. You don't need other people from abroad to exploit your natural resources.
Right.
So with another words, I'm just a person who promote for his country the nationalism in a real sense, promote God, and promote peace, prosperity, and love.
Well, let me ask you,
In my
Calin,
opinion, the only strategy, the strategy is the strategy of peace, is not the strategy of war. So I'm absolutely convinced that myself as president, I can solve any problem as war, which is around us, because we have to have, Maria, dialogue. We have to use the diplomacy system. We have to use all the instruments from this luggage of diplomatic system, which is huge, it's enormous. It's impossible to don't have dialogue. Even if you don't want to have dialogue, you can use war. But the war, in my opinion, is controlled totally by the oligarch system, and in fact by the financial system, by the bankers.
yes. So
Because
I
the
want to talk
bankers,
to you about that, because there is a very,
they have
very
interest on that. Yeah.
important thing that President Putin did some time ago, which was essentially kick out the Rothschilds banking system.
Of course.
So
Of
as
course.
president, would you be looking to decouple from these people that control countries through the banking systems? Would you be looking to make sure that there is an end to Agenda 2030 in Romania, never to be seen again? Would you be exiting the Paris Agreement? Are these things that you would be looking at?
Look, Maria, the numbers, they don't lie. People, maybe yes, maybe they do, all right? So we can see in the ground the reality. A lot of poverty, a huge poverty. The economic system is almost disaster. Inflation is huge, all right? The debt is enormous, all right? And the education, it's almost dead. We have no education, right? The people, the Romanian people, they are going abroad, and even abroad, as you very well know, they have no solutions, because
Yes.
even in West countries, there are not any more solutions for good life. So with another words, we have to see the reality with our eyes. I have no any problem with all this international community where Romania is part of them. But I said very clear, and I said also to you in this interview, I am ready to negotiate everything for the welfare and for the health of my people. You cannot stay as slave and accept what others they say to you. You have to negotiate. And the negotiation is the most important pillar for a president who loves his people. Otherwise, you are just a stone and you don't move anymore. You are just there, and for the next 4 years, or I don't know
Of course.
what I have to say.
So,
So
so, so
exactly this is a problem.
in practice, we've seen certain countries saying they want nothing to do with the World Health Organization. They're going to cut off funding. The WHO has a global pandemic fund. They're asking every country to commit to that. And it's essentially a way to entrap countries in even receiving life-saving medicine if they don't impose vaccine mandates, things like that. I won't get into all of the weeds. People can go and look at our previous interviews on this. But is that something that you would be that you would be taking action on, having nothing to do with this World Health Organization medical martial law system?
I am my own owner, and the Romanian people are their own owner. exactly as the Albanian or the Serbian or others, you know. So we cannot accept that others to dictate in favor of us. Basically, each people, as you know very well, Maria, they have their tradition, correct? They have their own skills historically, and we know very well what is good and what is not good for us. So, with another words, I don't want to against with nobody. I promote just the peace, but I have to say, gentlemen, I'm sorry. I have to take care, first of all, about my people. And in this country doesn't exist predictability, doesn't exist good health, doesn't exist good food. So first of all, I have to take care about the health and about the life of my people. And after that, we can discuss other stuff. So we have to be aware then that the capitalism is dead, even that they don't want to accept, but the capitalism is dead. And is the ultimately, how I can say, days for this oligarch system and principle for the financial system, which they were free money from the central bank, as you know very well. It's just the computer, and in reality doesn't exist, let's say, cash money or reserve money. And we have debts as all the countries around, which in fact produce just for them different algorithms and active things, but in reality for us is absolutely empty situation for our life. So we have to understand very well that the future belongs to the ownership, belongs to the human relationship, and not belongs to people from abroad who dictate for others. They have to dictate in their own country. And we discuss about the multipolar world, not the unipolarity world. The unipolarity world does mean that we have to eat just apple each day, or to I don't know, to eat just bread 1 year each day. No, we discuss about the multipolarity world, where everybody has the right to have access to his own natural resources, has the right to access his own people and his own freedom. So I want to say in the end that the most important piece is that you have to educate your people to be skeptic. If they are not skeptic and they don't have questions, you are under the control of the political system dictated by the oligarch system, and you are dead.
It sounds like you're carefully navigating a lot of these complex, international relationships, and I can appreciate
Indeed.
that. I can appreciate
Indeed.
that. What you're describing to me, Calin, is the opposite of Agenda 2030. And talking about looking after your own people first, utilizing your natural resources for your people, feeding them properly, not turning them into cyborgs, removing the pedophilia agenda. It sounds like a lot of this is also very much driven by your Christianity. How important is that to you in this race?
Romania is a Christian country, and it will remain like this. No doubt. We are here because because God gave to us our land. It's true love. It's true love. We didn't receive our land from Brussels or from Washington. We receive our land from God. And we have to protect our land and our people first. So the main priority is our people. The main priority is the Romanian people. After that, there are details. But first of all, we have to take care about our nation. We have to take care about our country. We have to take care about our boundaries. We have to take care the immigration, which is huge and destroy our culture, is not a thing which we have to leave to be developed. So simply we have to take care about everybody, yes, of course, but first it's our main nation. So each nation has to do like that. Exactly as in fact the UN was born in 1945. Exactly this was born for this purpose, not for others.
Right.
So we have to respect just the rules, which they are not invented by me. I'm young, like you, Maria. But the people which they were in 1945, they wrote a very good protocol on that, which was not respected anymore. This I want to tell you. So we have to strongly believe that it's a big shift, will arrive very soon, everywhere, and the big shift does mean the freedom of the people in a real sense. We are born free by God, and we have to remain free during our life. We are not slaves, and the slavery have to be stopped forever. Thank you.
Absolutely couldn't agree with you more, Calin. We're out of time today, but I definitely want to meet with you again. I want to direct people to your website, which they can go and have a look at. Let me just bring that up for the viewers right now. You can visit calingeorgescu.ro. Obviously, the website is in Romanian, but
for the moment.
But what should people be aware of, Calin, especially if we have viewers from Romania or even Europe at the moment? What would you really, how can they support your race and how can they find out more?
Yeah, so I kindly ask you to know that it's a country, in particular in Europe, wants to become free. And I want to say that this example of Romania can be also for others. I want that the people to understand that the only strategy which I have is a strategy of peace. And the only thing where we have to ask about our freedom is God. No other things, no other people. We have just to cooperate together, to have a human relationship, to understand each other, and to be just love, a state of spirit everywhere. So these are my main purpose, and I encourage everybody to understand that it's time to be non-politically correct. It's time just for freedom. So if they want to help this social movement, because in Romania, I have just a social movement. I am not in the position to have money for this campaign. It's just a social movement. They can encourage that via internet. They can encourage by the website, which I have. They can encourage by different statements, by videos, or by others, in order the people to know that after a lot of years is one person in Central and Eastern Europe country, in Romania particularly, which want to promote the freedom of his people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Calin. We look forward to future conversations. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
And wishing you all the best in this race. Thank you.
Very much appreciate for this interview, Maria, and I wish you all the best and to be together free, as I said, in the nearest future.
Amen.
Thank you. Amen.
Zeee Media is proud to partner with freedom-loving businesses like Gold Bullion Australia Group, Australia's leading dealer of gold and silver bullion. In such uncertain times in the market, many are switching to lasting physical assets like gold and silver rather than depending on the crumbling financial system. GBA Group is an Aussie partner you can trust. They have a huge range of available gold and silver at competitive prices, a friendly, experienced team on standby for all of your questions, are family-owned and have been specialising in precious metals for over 40 years. They're looking forward to helping anyone that has come from Zeee Media, so click the link in the description below, visit one of their offices now spread across Sydney, the Gold Coast, Brisbane, Melbourne and Singapore, or call 1300 618 363 and consider securing your wealth today.